This is a very different kind of fragrance. This is a weird idea that I wasn't actually anticipating. As I said, guys, I wasn't anticipating making this fragrance, but the purpose now is to do something new and interesting. I don't think I've ever seen another brand make a community requested fragrance. I wasn't expecting to be making this video, but our own brand Atrium is going to be making a blueberry fragrance. We have an empty bottle sample here. This is not the final presentation. Why are we making a blueberry fragrance, you might be wondering? Well, that is because recently something very interesting happened. So you may have seen on our channel, we visited the Experimental Perfume Club with Emmanuel, who is the founder of the company. They do customizable bespoke fragrances in their own store here in London. You can order worldwide from their website. And in the lead up to that video, I asked you guys in our community tab in YouTube, what would be your dream fragrance to see? And the top liked comment would get the feature in the video. In the end, the top liked comment did not get featured in the video. Sorry to say, we ended up using a fig and oud idea, which we used in the video. You can go see that full video at some point after you watch this one, of course. Actually, the most liked comment was a fragrance that highlights the note of blueberry, something like that. We'll have that on screen. It got the most amount of likes, and I thought that was quite an interesting idea. It wasn't something I was thinking too hard about ahead of time, but just seeing that kind of got my cogs spinning. And then I decided to put up another post in our community tab saying, okay, let's have this idea where we make a community driven fragrance. So you guys in the community give out an idea that you really want to see, and then us in Atrium go ahead and create it. We're all about creativity in the brand, and what way to be as creative as possible other than give you guys the reins to give us the ideas for the fragrance and see if we can do it justice for you. In that second community post, around 3,000 of you voted to have the fragrance created or for us to just ignore the request and just do our own thing. And about 80% of you said you want to see this blueberry fragrance become a reality. And I don't blame you. There aren't actually that many blueberry fragrances around. I think someone in the comments said Arabian Oud Kalemat has a blueberry nose. I know Bleecker Street had it, but it wasn't really the most prominent part of the fragrance. It was more of a green musky fragrance, but blueberry was a cool note that was in there. But yeah, blueberry in general is just not a note that's covered that widely. So I think that's an interesting suggestion, and I can see why a lot of you are requesting it now. So what's the point of this video? You may have seen the title. We're calling this project Project Blueberry. Essentially, Atrium in the past, we've kind of made our own thing. We did it kind of behind the scenes. You didn't really see the process of how ourselves and how fragrance brands in general create fragrances. So I thought it would be interesting where I create a multi-part series about the development of this fragrance from the very beginning, from the very origin of the idea, which was from one YouTube comment, and now it's kind of escalating to something where I've actually started the process of creating this. I've released maybe 9 fragrances in Atrium in the last 2 years, around that much, yes. Basically, the idea was we wanted to create 10 permanent fragrances, be the permanent core of our collection. I wanted to make our last fragrance in the upcoming months in the core collection, which is going to be our loud head turner in the mature collection, the connoisseur collection. And then that was kind of going to be it for a while. I didn't want to make any more fragrances for a long time after that. But now here we are, making a blueberry fragrance. People like to buy from people these days. I think it's cool that a lot of brands are being more transparent about the creative process. So I want to do that as well for us with you guys, so you can see what happens with fragrance brands when they develop products. You'll see the highs, the lows, the blunders. Of course, some of you are still waiting for your orders for the Atrium Fragrance Curiosity Collections pre-orders. If you're based outside of the UK, that's still very much on its way, guys. I'll be with you soon enough, hopefully. But that is the kind of thing I want to show you guys in the creative process. Things aren't always smooth sailing as you might anticipate. But if you guys do want to try out any of our products so far, we have the entire connoisseur collection in most regions, and we also have Mr. Momentum is available already at our warehouses, so they would dispatch to you ASAP. They're already there present for you to acquire. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how we create fragrances in Atrium. I have my laptop here, and this is probably maybe another way that a lot of fragrance houses actually use a similar process as well. So I think this is probably going to be a general process that a lot of companies use. Obviously, we're a small startup. The big brands will have like market focus groups that'll be very, very intricate and a little bit more precise than the startup will, but that's kind of the whole point. Startups aren't so restricted, we can be more creative. And that's the whole point of Atrium. We're all about creativity. longevity for sure, because we're fragrance collectors. We don't want weak performing fragrances, and we're about practicality. So that's the whole point of our fragrances so far. They've all been about being in a category, one of our 5 categories, each time we make a release. However, this fragrance here, Project Blueberry, is different. So let's start off with how I would create a fragrance. I first of all think of the purpose of a fragrance. What am I trying to achieve? In the past, let's say we're making Mr. Debonair, or whatever our project was called at that time. In the initial stages, we said, okay, we want to make an office fragrance that's new, unique, hasn't been done before. We want something that's inoffensive, but still handsome. That was kind of the purpose, to make office perfumery attractive, not boring like it can be. So that's an example of one of our previous releases. What would be the purpose of Project Blueberry? This is a very different kind of fragrance. This is a weird idea that I wasn't actually anticipating. As I said, guys, I wasn't anticipating making this fragrance, but the purpose now is to do something new and interesting. I don't think I've ever seen another brand make a community requested fragrance. I think that's an advantage we have in Atrium. We have School of Scent. You guys are a fantastic community. So I want to kind of do you guys justice. I want to channel your creativity through ourselves, hopefully give you something great. So the purpose of this project is to give you guys your dream fragrance as a real product. We want to do it justice. And right now we're saying this is a limited edition drop, only 1 batch, because we want you to feel special if you do acquire this product. So we've established the purpose. What are we going to do after that? Then you need an idea. So the idea of, in the past, I would think of something. So for Mr. MESMERIC, I said, okay, fougères are clean barbershop fragrances. They're usually more daytime scents. Let's make an interesting, seductive nighttime fougère, something that includes the evening seductive notes like the whiskey, we have the tobacco, with a barbershop fougère. I thought that was quite interesting. So we have different approaches like that. So here the idea was kind of made by you guys. You can see the comments. You can go back to our community posts and see the comments I'm referring to as I'm talking about them through this video. So it's a bit of a cheat. I've basically got you guys to do the work for me. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You made my life a lot easier. But of course, when you're a fragrance creator, when you see the things behind the scenes, you kind of restrict yourself a little bit because you kind of know the limitations. When you're a viewer, you kind of just don't care. You're like, I want this creative idea, make it happen, don't complain, just get to it. And I think that's kind of cool. That basically means we're a little bit less restrained now. Your creativity is going to go wild, and let's see how this project goes. Let's see if we can make it actually a real thing. Let's see if it actually works. Is it practical to make a blueberry fragrance? It's not a common note. Why not? Is there a reason for that? Is it actually just a really hard note to replicate? Can you even make it a realistic, convincing blueberry note? So maybe it's going to have some problems here. You guys have made the idea for me, but it could be problematic. So the idea section of this video, okay, you got this comment from this user who said, a fragrance that highlights a blueberry note. Let's go with that. Next up, you got to choose who will be your companion, because most of the time, if you're in a brand, the minority of brands are probably in-house perfumers actually make the fragrances. You got, of course, Aaron Terence Hughes brand. You've got Rook Perfumes. He makes his own fragrances. But a lot of brands, such as Dolce & Gabbana or Atrium, we use other perfumers, people who've done the skill, the craft for decades often. So I'm going to have to decide which perfumer am I going to utilize. As a small startup, so we've actually struggled to find perfumers, because when you're small, a lot of people just kind of wave you away. I was very lucky that we got started with John Stephen, because I did his course in the Coastal Perfumery back in the day, and I wasn't even, I didn't even know that it was actually a business perfumery course. His advanced course is actually like a 5-day course where it's actually not that much of making perfumes, like a fun hobby. It's actually more about learning the business side of things. That's actually how Atrium got started, kind of by accident. And this perfume that we're making now, Project Blueberry, is also an accident. So, let's carry on. Who's going to be the perfumer? So because I want this to be as successful as possible, I'm not going to experiment with a new perfumer we haven't used before. We're going to use a fragrance house we've used before, and that is Firmenich. They are actually the creators of all 5 of our Curiosity collection. They are a massive fragrance and flavoring house. They're worth like billions and billions of euros. I think they're based in Switzerland as their headquarters, but we usually cooperate and communicate with their Spanish offices. I'm choosing Firmenich because they've made fruit-based fragrances for us that I think have been fantastic. Mr. Majestic is our plum-based loud head turner fragrance. I thought that was a fantastic plum note in there. It lasts, it's elongated, so it's not just a plum note that lasts 5 minutes and goes away. I'm very happy with them. They're great at creating fruit-focused fragrances. So not only Mr. Majestic with the plum, but also Mr. Maritime, of course, with the mango in there. It was a mango amber aquatic, which well, as far as I can tell, a completely original idea and got us a lot of hype. I think it's probably our superstar fragrance, honestly. A lot of people like that one, so fair enough. Thank you for the support, guys. So we're gonna go with Firmenich. Okay, so I've actually already sent them a brief. I'm gonna break down how I created that brief. So a brief is basically you as a brand, you give the perfumer the context of how you want to create the fragrance. When someone says someone is a creative director, you're giving a direction in the creativity of a brand. This is basically it. You can go an infinite number of ways, and I think there definitely is still a skill to this. Of course, the perfumers definitely deserve a lot of credits as well, but there's a reason why when Tom Ford went to any house, so he used to be in Gucci and he made the brand really famous with his fragrances, went to YSL, phenomenal, and then he made his own brand. Those fragrances, just popped off. Even though he's not a perfumer, being good at creative direction is very important also. So my brief has been quite simple. I made it very much direct as to what you guys want. I said, we are looking for a men's fragrance that focuses on the note of blueberry. I've went with that emphasis on being a men's fragrance because Atrium, we don't really do unisex fragrances. We're all about creating masculine perfumery, so we're going to carry on with that. The main aim of this release is to feel like a tribute to the wonderful community we have built online. So I'm describing the purpose of this project to them. The scent profile needs to feel like blueberry is a prominent aspect of the fragrance. This is the theme of the fragrance that has been heavily requested by our social media viewership. So I'm referring basically to that 3,000 votes, 80% poll that we did in the community tab. So I've said I would prefer this to be a fresh scent overall, because we've also done a community post a long time ago now where I think most people can probably guess this. People prefer fresher scents over sweeter scents. And that poll we did, I think it was like 2/3 of men preferred fresh scents over 1/3 of men preferred sweet scents. I think fresh scents are more easy to access. And if we're going to be creating one of the first proper blueberry focused men's fragrances, let's make it fresh. That's probably a safer bet. However, I did reference other comments in the community tab posts. I said, I would prefer this to be a fresh scent overall, but one comment requested, I'd kill for a spicy sweet gourmand that smells like blueberry pie with allspice, nutmeg and cinnamon in it. So I've literally taken out that entire comment and put it to the professional brief to Firmenich. Another commenter mentioned blueberry with iris and coffee. I think there was actually 2 comments that mentioned that. It was really interesting that such a specific request from 2 different accounts. Iris, coffee and blueberry sounds interesting. Having these 3 ideas is very important because then it brings up the next section of creating a fragrance is the different directions you want to go into. Usually, not all perfumers do this. Some perfumers just give you one sample, one iteration of your idea, but with Firmenich, what they usually do is they give you a handful, maybe 3 or 4 of an idea you're going for, but in different directions. So one might be a fougere, one might be like a very spicy, woody version of what you're looking for. So I'm basically saying to them, I want to have 3 directions for Project Blueberry. You want the gourmand, the cinnamon nutmeg request that one commenter made, and then you have the iris and coffee is one direction, and then we have my one, which is the fresh direction. Next, we have to mention performance to the perfumer because this is very important for them to know which ingredients to use, but also at what concentration the compound should be. Is this going to be an eau de cologne? Are you going to ask them for an aftershave? Someone just shaved and they just want like a little fresh citrus eau de cologne to last an hour. Some people don't care about performance. Of course, guys, pretty much for all our briefs, I say we need at least 8 hours longevity, and I'm asking for medium projection. Firmenich are pretty good at providing longevity and projection. Next, you mentioned to the perfumer what occasions you want this fragrance to be worn in. So I've said generally we want this to be worn in at least 3 out of 4 seasons, and I kind of left it at that. It's a bit vague because I don't really know how practical a blueberry fragrance is. Is it a daytime fragrance? Is it an evening fragrance? Should this be a versatile signature? So I've kind of left it vague. Hopefully it's quite a practical, versatile fragrance. Maybe I should have been more specific actually in hindsight now as to saying, I want this to be a day and night fragrance. Then I usually mention gender as well, how masculine you want this to be. I just generally say I want this to be a masculine fragrance. And I mentioned also age groups. Who is this for? Is this a very youthful teenager fragrance or a more mature fragrance like in our Connoisseur collection? I said I want this fragrance to be for all age groups, so kind of similar to what we have in our Curiosity collection. And then you request a certain budget as well. What budget is the perfumer working towards? Are you going to be selling this fragrance for £40 or is this going to be like a £300 niche monster? Give the budget to the perfumer, and usually this is a certain price per kilogram of pure compound. So it's not even like the final product diluted. It's not your 20% eau de parfum. This is just pure compound. That's how it usually works in these projects. Because I want to do the most justice possible for you guys, for your idea, I've just said unlimited budget, which is the first time I've ever done this with MESMERIC. So I don't want any restrictions. I want the perfumer to, you know, if they have, the perfumer has an idea of how they can make this project work, and they're thinking, oh, they might be worried about the priciness of it, how expensive the compound might be. I want them to not worry about that. So I haven't really got an idea of what the final price for this product will be, but I'm hoping it'll be affordable. If it's too much money at 100 ml, then maybe I'll try to push for this to be a 50 ml. Which we haven't done before, but hopefully we'll make it affordable somehow. Then you give your dosage. I generally say 20 to 25%. So 20% is like the higher end of eau de parfum, and 25% is where generally perfume is considered an extrait de parfum. At this concentration, you're pretty much always going to get a good performing fragrance. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I feel like it's probably gone on for too long already as it is, but this is just part 1 to Project Blueberry. Do you guys want to see the rest of this series? Do you guys want to give your contributions in the comments down below? What are your thoughts so far for the process I've shared with you at this point in part 1? I can confirm that I've already been in touch with MESMERIC after I submitted that brief over a video call, and they're telling me that yes, they will be using those 3 directions I mentioned. I'm hoping to do a part 2 where myself and maybe some other people, you know, some of the other guests who have been on this channel in the past, we all kind of give our first impressions and our thoughts on each direction. We share our opinion with you guys and see, yeah, maybe you guys can help us out in the comments as to which direction we go into. It's kind of like a video game where you have like 3 paths in your quest, and you have to basically see where you want your character to go. So yeah, maybe this is a cool idea. I don't know, maybe, is this a good idea or is this lame? Not sure, but yeah, essentially, we want this to be a new idea for the brand in terms of the scent profile, but also just making a community-driven perfume. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our previous video on the Atrium Fragrance Curiosity Collection. Make sure you share your thoughts in the comments down below. See you guys in the next one. Bye.